Welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast number 820. I'm Tom Cagley, your host. Today, we continue the story of Innovatech. In this installment, MSL's baselining the flow to generate ideas for improvement and a starting point. The story of Innovatech is an allegory for how a data-driven improvement initiative can be bootstrapped with courage and perseverance. We also have a visit from Susan Parente, whose Not a Scrumdamentalist column delivers insights and advice. Susan and I discuss who is the most important person on a team and who isn't. Learn to tame your work intake beast. Jeremy Willits and I continue summer camp. And like a swimming pool, it's never too late to join the fun. Join us for the 6th installment of Work Intake Summer Camp at 12:30 Eastern Daylight Time this week, July 24th. By the way, links in the show notes to the previous sessions if you missed them. The story of Innovatech, the transition. The epiphany that action only happens if you make it happen is a call to action. Taking action, Emma calls a meeting. The attendees include leaders from the business, the CTO, operations, sales engineering, and R&D. The intent is to involve as many parts of the value stream as possible. Since Emma is a key participant, Emma enlists one of Innovatech's Agile coaches to help. This is all after a conversation with her mentor over beer and wings, which we'll get to some point in the future. The meeting begins like most other meetings at Innovatech. 5-10 minutes after, the first 30 minutes include sharing the 3 charts, explaining technical debt, listening to R&D and the business participate in intramural finger pointing. The second part of the meeting was not normal. The message in the data was strong enough for the group to take action. Everyone agrees that something has to change. The leaders agree to put aside apportioning blame, at least for now. The outcome is an agreement to fund the project to find the root cause of the problem. Before the end of the meeting, the facilitator gets each group represented to provide someone to support the effort. The team will include 2 people from R&D, 2 from the business departments, 1 person from operations, and 1 person from sales support. As Emma turns to leave the meeting, Ali, the CTO, pulls Emma aside and asks her to lunch. Lunch with Ali is not known to be fun, and transparency is not his strong suit. At lunch, the CTO provides Emma with a bit more context. The organization is under a lot of stress. Adding to that, stress could lead to a power struggle. Ali's message is that a leadership power struggle will make any change problematic. Emma needs to make a crystal clear case or risk the backlash. The executives, including Ali himself, will protect their organizations. While the lunch was excellent, the conversation disturbed Emma. She thinks, welcome to Innovatech's office politics, and not the good kind. The baseline. On her return from lunch, Emma gathered her team for a story mapping session. Armed with sticky notes, they brainstorm a rough plan for the study. The outcome is, step 1, high-level value chain and value stream mapping. Create a value stream of how work moves through Innovatech. The map will help the team visualize the steps involved and be useful in later steps in the process. Several people on the team want to jump immediately to process mapping. After some discussion, the team agrees process mapping now would be a time sink. Step 2, create a baseline. Gather data and metrics. Create a flow metrics baseline, including throughput, cycle time, work in process, and story escape rate. Even if the data is raw, the trend information will confirm if they are on the right path. Metrics will also be useful in gathering allies. 3, brainstorm with the team. Analyze the data and identify problem areas. With problem areas identified, the team will brainstorm dysfunctions and potential root causes. The team discuss using a wide range of approaches to dig deeper. Everyone has a favorite approach, including the 5 whys, fishbone or Ishikawa diagramming, cause and effect matrix, and dysfunction mapping. All great, but everyone has their favorite. Step 4, build a backlog of potential improvement experiments. Build a backlog of potential improvement experiments to address root causes. The team agreed that when created, the experiments will include quantifiable acceptance criteria. Emma noted that once they had a backlog, they would have to decide how to rank and sequence the work intake kind of stuff. Process improvement, work intake can't be a random walk or left to best efforts. Everyone agrees that the organization will stay the course for at least the 4 steps. The team is not sure what will happen when they report after step 4. In order not to lose momentum, everyone agrees to capture the last as a statement of intent. Step 5, run experiments. Run the identified experiments in priority order. Experiments will test their hypothesis and assumption. Once the team knows something will work, they can roll it out across the value chain. The word experiment caused some discomfort for the team. One person stated that a failed experiment might be career limiting. To reduce the risk, the team identified a set of questions to ask before tackling any experiment. How does this change how people work? Can we measure the impact of this change? What are the possible unintended consequences? And then finally, step 6, monitor and adjust. Track all changes to determine whether they work or they don't. Everyone agreed that each change would have a retrospective. Also, if a change didn't work, they would stop doing it and try the next highest priority. The only failed experiment is one that you don't learn from. Thoughts, comments, all welcome. Please feel free to reach out to us at spamcastinfo@gmail.com. We look forward to the conversation. We also would love to hear where you think Innovatech should go. Susan Parente, welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast.
Thank you, Tom. It's great to be here, as always.
Susan, your I'm Not a Scrumdamentalist column is always a hoot. It is fun because, very frankly, it's sort of like man plans and God laughs. We have a set of topics going in, and what comes out the other end is usually something much better.
Yes, I agree. That's why it's not good to do all that planning up front. That's the agile way, right?
Absolutely. Let's start today with the idea of who is the most important person on a team, other than me or you?
Well, my first thought when I hear that question is the team member. And at the same time, I'll also say that is absolutely not the Scrum Master. Like, that should be the last thought that comes to your mind. I think that a lot of people think that it's a Scrum Master. To me, the Scrum Master fundamentally doesn't need to be there if everybody knows what they're doing. And that's probably very controversial. I'm sure people, what are you talking about? Scrum without a Scrum Master? It's insanity.
Dogs living with cats, those sorts of things.
But, there are things where people say like, oh, the Scrum Master has to be at the daily stand-up. I'm like, actually, if the team members know how to do the daily stand-up, they really don't need to be there because the Scrum Master doesn't even need to talk at the daily stand-up. And if they do talk, it should be, oh, let's get back on point. What have you done? What do you plan to do? And what's getting in the way?
Yeah, especially if you're
Right?
using that format.
Yeah. So there's nothing about the Scrum Master in those 3 statements. They're taking notes. So anyway, just to be super clear, the Scrum Master is not the most important person. If you had 7 Scrum Masters on your team, no work would get done because Scrum Masters don't do work, right? So there you go.
In a pure implementation, absolutely they don't.
Yes.
Maybe in a hybrid.
So I want to say the most important person is the team member. And then I guess the question is which team member? And it's like, no, it's the team member, right? So like meaning each one of them, that role is the most important.
And I've been thinking about team a lot lately. And if the idea is that you need a team to do a piece of work, whether it's to, create a feature or a function or a release, then aren't you really saying perhaps the most important person is the weakest link on the chain, because it's the one that will determine cadence, flow, those sorts of things.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And yeah, again, it's kind of counterintuitive. Our thought then, okay, which of the team members, the strongest one? It's like, no, actually, it's the weakest one is the most important one. Because if the weakest person is strong, then the team is great.
Well, and if the weakest person falters, the strongest person falls down too, right? So this is I think one of the most exciting times in the sports calendar. We're about to go into the Summer Olympics. And I always think the Summer Olympics are cool. You get all of the sports, and a lot of them are team sports. The relay races in track, or the relay races in swimming. And very frankly, you might have somebody who's just the best, freestyle swimmer in the whole world. And it's the person that goes the slowest on your team that really is the one who makes or breaks whether or not you win a medal at all.
Yeah. And so that, I like where we're going with this because, and I say it like that because truly, audience, Tom and I do not believe in scripting what we're going to talk about. We really are thinking through it with you. And where you're going with this is that this means that it's important for the team members to support the weakest person on the team. And we say this, like the weakest person on the team isn't something like negative about that person. It's not personal. It could be they're the new person to the team that doesn't have the experience. They could have less experience in what they're doing. Like let's say they're coding Python and the weakest person on the team just started coding in Python a few months ago and everybody else is doing it for a few years. It doesn't mean they're the youngest. They could be older. Age is no factor. Yeah, there could be a lot of things that make them the weakest person on the team. But the point is that the value there is that the other team members recognize that and rally around that person. And it's funny, you see individuals that are really exceptional, and the Olympics is a great example. So if you take the best basketball players and put them all on a team together, they will not innately be successful just because you have all the best people there. It's how you work together as a team. And so it's important for the team to notice where things are missing and support the people around them. One of the reasons that I love to work with people who've played team sports in high school or college, because how they behave on a team is very different. Even as a project manager or as a scrum master, when I'm leading a team, I always tell the team I'm accountable for the team. Like particularly if, let's say, for example, as a scrum master, I'm accountable that the team follows Scrum. That doesn't mean I'm responsible for doing all the work, not by any means. I have my job and they have their jobs. And it's important to understand on a team that you have a role to play, and that role is no better, more important than any other role. But it is important that everybody does their role so the team can actually accomplish their task. And when teams get that, they perform well. And they appreciate each other for what they do, right? I mean, if I was putting a basketball team together, I'm probably going to make the tallest person the center. I'm not going to make them the point guard and have the shortest person be the center. So it's just about, how are we going to arrange ourselves to be most successful?
It's funny that you make the basketball, use that as an allusion or a metaphor. Did you, by any chance, catch the exhibition game of the U.S. basketball team that they're fielding for the Olympics?
No, I didn't. Tell me about it. Tell me what I missed.
They won yesterday, as one would, in the long run, expect them to do. It is pretty much all of the all-stars from the NBA. So some of the greatest basketball players in the world. Obviously, because the U.S. is the basketball is a world sport, people like Wemby went back to France to play for them, things like that. But the first half, the U.S. team shooting from the field went 1 for 11, which is horrific. That's a horror story. And that's with people like Curry, LeBron James, all of, these big names on the floor, because they weren't playing as a team. It wasn't until the second half when they started playing together that they whoever the poor team they were playing, they destroyed them in the second half. It was a close game, but only because they stunk in the first half and then started playing, got their stuff together. It is a team sport. And if everybody, I go and watch my grandchildren play soccer. And this is another one of those classic metaphors that many of us use in training. But it's true. And you watch the 3 and 4 year olds out kicking the ball, and somebody kicks the ball and everybody on both teams run all to the ball, and then you run into each other, fall down. It's I don't know.
So it's the beehive phenomenon. Like
it's funny. I mean, you have to, as a grandparent, you have to sit there and bite your tongue so as you don't laugh at everybody on the field loudly enough for them to hear.
And it's usually like that one kid that's like sitting there, like picking like dandelions in the grass, like
or his nose or their nose. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And they're probably the ones who are going to be the greatest of all time sooner or later.
Yes.
You don't know. One of the roles, and we let's go back to, it's not the Scrum Master for a minute, or it's not the leader, whomever, whatever that role is on the team, isn't one of the obligations of the Scrum Master to see who needs help and help the team direct toward that.
Yeah, because their job is to remove barriers and impediments. And if somebody needs help, that's clearly a barrier and impediment. So recognizing that and facilitating that is one of their jobs. And that, I think that the way that works is the Scrum Master will notice that they probably don't have the ability to help that person because it's probably something technical that's lacking. So what they do probably know is they know the other team members, so they can say, you know what? I should put Sally with Joe to help Joe out because I know Sally knows a lot about this and I know Joe is new to this. And so the Scrum Master should know the team well enough to kind of figure out who could help, or just kind of ask the team, in one of the meetings, say, hey, so-and-so is new to our team. who'd like to volunteer to, kind of show them around, things like that. And that's a nice way to do it, especially if it's an obvious thing. Like if a person's new to the team, it's not like they're going to take that personal, right? Now, if it's something that they're weak in, that maybe will be more upsetting for them to realize, maybe there's more a nuanced way of doing that. Maybe the Scrum Master pulls somebody aside and says, "Hey, can you give Sally, can you give Joe a call and kind of ask what's going on and offer some help, and not so much do it publicly."
Let me ask you a what's if as we sort of get ready to wrap this segment up. I recently was working with a very, very, very senior team, and it was a technical team. It's sort of fun because I have some technical background also. But it was, these people had been doing this work for at least 10 years, all of them. And there was, they were working on a bit of machine language, machine learning kind of stuff, that one person had a little less math than the others on the team, even though he was just as senior as them. How would you, as a leader, because it was noticeable, and I think, it was noticeable to me. Whether or not it was noticeable to everyone, I don't know. But let's say it was you. How would you deal with that as, a Scrum Master or a leader or someone who was coaching the team?
So one person had a little less, what did you say?
Math. Because that's
Math?
what the math, M-A-T-H, math. They were
Okay,
doing
okay, yeah.
they were doing machine learning and machine learning
gotcha.
algorithms.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So that's an example where it would be challenging because you don't want to just kind of pull that out.
Oh yeah, I could just see, dude, don't you remember your algorithms?
And the thing is, the funny thing about that, Tom, is that this person that had less math, like background, probably had way more than you did, but they just had less than the other people on the team, right? So it's like,
and it was just
who in the world?
It was just a scooch less. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, who in the world are you to call me out? You don't know nothing. Right.
Yeah.
So
basically.
that would be the concern, right? But again, I think the observation is usually made by the Scrum Master, because the Scrum Master isn't doing the work, they're observing. And so they're in a better perspective to notice these things, right? So I would say, hopefully I know all of the team members. And in that case, I would look to see not necessarily who's the strongest in that, but who is strong in that area, that has a demeanor, an attitude, an energy that they're willing to extend themselves to another person. So I think the inclination would be, well, let me get the person who's strongest in math to help that person, to kind of bring them up to speed. That's not always the best solution, because it's not just them knowing the information, it's their ability to work with others, their desire to work with others. Hopefully everybody on the team wants to work with everybody. But that being said, it's a little bit sensitive, like you said, when you have a team of senior people. So I would pick the person with the right attitude about that, to reach out to them. And, guess I'm trying to think how we'd say it, like, maybe work together on a few tasks. Now, how does that person then not feel like, oh, why are we working together on this or whatever? And what I guess what I would say, this task that needs to be assigned to somebody, I think is really difficult. So I want to put two people on it to, kind of mitigate the risk of the difficulty. And I don't know. I don't know if that's, we should be 100% transparent, but I also don't think we should be like in your face and insult somebody. Especially like you said, like we're talking about people who are very senior and one of them's just like a little bit below who everybody else is on the team. That's what I would do. I would find a task and say, here's my recommendation for this. Obviously, the team members are the ones that decide who does the work, not me, but I'm going to make this recommendation. And, what do you think of that? Would two of you be willing to work together on this? I think will reduce the risk. I don't know. What do you think, Tom? It's a tough one because it's about people. It's not about process. The process questions are easy. I just look in the Scrum guide or the Agile practice guide and the answer's there. Right? Those are easy questions.
Those are significantly easier. But it all does boil down to people and relationships, the whole relationships with people. What we ended up doing was making sure that the team restated the goal for the piece of work such that everybody was committing to doing, reaching that goal. So that was one. We used that as an anchor. And then in a very similar vein, what I did was I actually suggested that we start the iteration, and we were using iterative development, basically a sprint, Scrum-like kind of thing, and started out with a day of pairing and did a whole day of pairing across the entirety of the team. So everybody paired up. And at noon, we switched and worked in different pairs so as to start to talk about normalizing, the little bit of differences. It also made sure that everyone on the team, because they're getting into summer, right? We're getting into where people start to disappear for vacations or decide to take Friday off because it's clear and they can get out on the lake kind of thing. So, but make sure everybody else knew what everybody else was doing. So we used that just very similar to the scenario that you painted as a mechanism to sync it up.
If you can afford to do that, pair people together on a bunch of tasks, which I guess you should be able to afford to do it because they should get through the task twice as quickly, theoretically. And I like that because then everybody's benefiting by working with somebody. We all have opportunities to learn and grow no matter how much we know. So, and then it also is a team building thing when you pair people up.
It helped the team in any number of ways. We're actually talking about starting every iteration with a day of pairing going forward, just as a mechanism to sync the team.
That's great.
We've actually done it now two iterations in a row. We've gone from rolling a piece of work, once every other sprint. We haven't rolled a piece of work in 2 sprints. So that's pretty cool. And the team feels very happy and, they getting nice feedback from their clients. So it's a mechanism. It's a mechanism.
Great.
Susan,
good question. Thank you.
How would people continue the conversation?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Susan Parente. Actually show up as being in Washington, D.C. I do work there. I also do work in the tri-state New York area. But you'll find me on LinkedIn under Susan Parente. And you could also email me, Parente at S as in Sam, the number 3, -TEC, TomEdwardCharlie.com. So reach out to me. Always love to have the conversation. And if you're curious about Agile certifications, I now have 11 of those, and I'd be happy to from 4 different certifying bodies. So I'd be happy to chat with you about which one is right for you. And I guarantee you the answer will not be to get 11 of them. That's because I teach them that I have that many. But I can guide you as to which the 1 or 2 that would be perfect for you.
Super. Thank you again for bringing your I'm Not a Scrumdamentalist column to the Software Process and Measurement Cast.
Thank you, Tom.
In Reread Saturday News, Chapter 8 of Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's book, Flow, entitled Enjoying Solitude and Other People, discusses the impact on people on optimal experience and flow. The author grounds the chapter by reminding us that the quality of life depends on how we experience work and relationships with others. Links in the show notes to this week's installment and all previous installments of our reread of Flow. Buy a copy, read along. In the next Software Process and Measurement Cast, number 821, we'll feature our interview with Alex Nastakovich. We will talk about finding value in unstructured data, transitioning from developer to entrepreneur, and agile. If process improvement is a never-ending journey, why do so many people ask, are we there yet?